let's talk about Nandrolone, decanoate, or
Yeah,
Deca.
Deca. All right.
Yes, I know you've used it for a long time for bodybuilding purposes, and that
Yeah,
you're
20 years.
20 years. Unbelievable. People are always talking about 16-week cycles and so on. So, what are the benefits of using it as an add-on to TRT?
All right.
This is the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. And if you want to learn all about the science-based information on this topic, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
Now, this is more anecdotal. It's more my experience, because I'm not a researcher. I don't have people on it, and I don't draw bloods all the time. And I do, but my point is, I'm not researching the effects of Nandrolone. Okay. Now, I'll back up because the person that first introduced me to the benefits of Nandrolone decanoate was one of my mentors, Dr. Edward Lichten. I think you've had, or maybe Danny has had Dr. Lichten on before. But his first textbook of identical hormones, came out in 2007. But I met him back in the mid 90s. So he had a lot of older patients, older men, on Nandrolone, but he never put them on Nandrolone monotherapy. It was always in combination with testosterone. His theory was, well, now this is back in the day when, in the 90s, when Dr. Lichten still believed in controlling for estrogen. He would put people on anastrozole if it got too high. I think he's changed his tune now, as the research indicates. But as a physician who's been on Nandrolone for many, 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 many years, both in super physiological doses and now in just maintenance doses, I have to justify. In other words, Dr. Lichten, in his book, states it's a natural hormone. It's BHRT, because somewhere along the pathway of testosterone being metabolized, you go through a Nandrolone type of a formation in the body. So he thinks it's a bioidentical hormone. That's how he justifies it. Matter of fact, he says that when the FDA took Nandrolone off the market here in the States back in March of 2007, I think, he said it was the worst thing that they ever done for the anti-aging of old men. It's his favorite go-to hormone for men in their mid-50s and up. And I'll tell you why. Again, so it doesn't aromatize into estrogen like testosterone does. So if Dr. Lichten had a patient that he wanted to control their estrogen and SHBG was too high, as you get older, it tends to come up. So Ed Lichten thought for older men whose SHBGs tend to come up with age, right, and who then aromatize more testosterone into estrogen, he said, well, I can control for both by putting a man on Nandrolone in addition to testosterone. So he would do that a lot to control for elevated estrogens and to control for elevated SHBG. This is Dr. Ed Lichten's do. And I think we've had this talk before, maybe with you or maybe with Jordan Grant, but I like the 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, if I try to optimize a man first with testosterone, first, monotherapy, nothing else, okay? And if I get a guy dialed in on testosterone, he says, "Oh, I got bad joint pains, and I know I was on Deca a long time ago as a bodybuilder or whatever, and it helps my joints and it feels better. And now the doc's got me on a bunch of NSAIDs, like high doses of NSAIDs to control the pain. We all know that NSAIDs have a bad side effect profile. Not to mention gut dysbiosis, ulcers, and kidney function. So what I'll do is, if I only have maybe half a dozen guys that requesting a Nandrolone therapy, and they'll come to me because I will entertain. Some people just don't. So, but I always put them on testosterone first, follow them up. And because testosterone has anti-inflammatory effects, if I get a guy dialed in and he may have a lot less joint pain by simply going to the gym and moving and stretching. But then if the guy still says, Doc, I want to get off this Mobic or this Motrin or this Naprosyn, then I will add Nandrolone to the formula. But it's always a 2-to-1 ratio, or at least close to 2-to-1 as I can get. So how do I do that then? Well, if a guy's, depends on how the testosterone they're using. In other words, if a guy's doing sub-Q or IM testosterone daily, which some people do pin that way, I recommend just 10 milligrams of Nandrolone, with that 20 milligrams of testosterone, 20 to 10, 1. So that's worked out very well for me. 20 milligrams daily of testosterone, 10 milligrams of Nandrolone. Some don't like pinning daily. Some men who will pin just once a week still like, they're whatever they're doing, 150 to 200 mgs of testosterone. I may start them on just 100 mgs. So my starting dose is either 70 mgs for the week or 100 mgs for the week, in conjunction, of course, with their testosterone. I try to keep as close to 2-to-1 ratio as I can. Mm-hmm. But I document. The reason I've documented, Stephen, that I'm doing this is because I saw CYA stuff. I said the patient is taking a heavy dose of Motrin and Naprosyn for the joint pain, and I will follow up and be sure that they're diminishing the dose of NSAID required. So I can justify putting a man on Nandrolone if that person tells me that they're getting either off or they're cutting down their dose of NSAID significantly. Mm-hmm. That's how I cover my 6 medical legally.
Mm-hmm. Shouldn't we be afraid for long-term health side effects from Nandrolone?
Yeah, I know this site has a lot of people that really are interested in Nandrolone. Again, as a guy who's been on it forever, who had 20 great years, the most healthy years of his life on testosterone and Nandrolone together, as suggested by Dr. Lichten in my early 90s. I was never afraid of outcomes. I never had any bad outcomes. I never had, I never had those things. I just felt great. Now everybody's different, but I think at the smaller doses and the 2-to-1 ratio, we can stay away from the Deca. But that's another area that is a lot of discourse and there's a lot of research. And I look at a person's supplementation for that. And so that's another area that's difficult to manage. And I really think that someday, if any man that was watching your podcast, I really think that a lot of them, if they were true to themselves, would tell you that some do real well on testosterone. Some over time will get erectile dysfunction. And I think, because my years of experience doing this, 40 years, a lot of men don't talk about ED. And I really think that a lot of men who start out doing well on testosterone, and then things adjust, and then they start coming down, and their endogenous production shuts down, and they're getting, I really think a lot of men are getting ED, and I think there's a lot more men out there that are not admitting to some of the problems they're seeing with erectile function, who are now on that. They're just not coming forward. But I think there's a lot of men out there, Stephen, that are having problems with it. But back to your concerns about long-term sequelae. I don't research it. I don't do I do labs, obviously, but I have never seen in 40 years somebody that has had a bona fide complication, negative sequelae to Nandrolone, whether it was monotherapy But then again, I don't follow people with monotherapy. I've had people come to me in the gym who said, Doc, I've been doing, 400 mgs of Nandrolone for, a week for 10 years. And I said, okay, you have any problems? And some will say, well, just my erectile. But I've never seen any long-term sequelae. But again, when it comes to Nandrolone, I'm not a researcher. I've been out there doing, meathead doses for a lot of years. Now as a physician, I entertain it as an addition to testosterone. But again, I don't do it in monotherapy. It's always in conjunction with testosterone, which I put them on first, because we both realize how important estrogen is. And that's why in a 2-to-1 ratio, to date, I have never had any complications of a man on Nandrolone. Now, as I said earlier, I don't have a lot of guys on it. I try to stay away from it, as best I can, because, I don't want to raise a red flag. Dr. Ruterbusch, the DEA, says the guy's got 1,000 guys on Nandrolone. I don't. I only have a half dozen maybe. But I don't fear it if done correctly. If the man comes in and we do labs and make sure that the lipid profile and the liver enzymes and the H&H and the platelets are in order, I see no problem with it.
Okay, thank you so much. Now do this next. Click on one of these thumbnails to learn a ton more about TRT and hormone optimization.